The untold story of the Trojan War, myths versus facts. The Trojan War is one of history's most enduring tales, immortalized in Homer's Iliad and Odyssey. From the beauty of Helen to the cunning of Odysseus, the war has captivated audiences for millennia. But how much of this epic conflict is rooted in historical fact, and how much is myth? The truth is a fascinating interplay between legend, archaeology, and ancient storytelling, blending historical events with literary embellishments. Here's the untold story of the Trojan War, unraveling its mythical grandeur and exploring the historical truths that may lie beneath. The Trojan War, according to Greek mythology, began with a seemingly trivial event, a beauty contest. Eris, the goddess of discord, wasn't invited to a wedding feast on Mount Olympus. In retaliation, she threw a golden apple inscribed with, "For the fairest," among the goddesses, Hera, Athena, and Aphrodite. The three quarreled over the title, ultimately asking Paris, a prince of Troy, to decide. Each goddess offered Paris a bribe. Hera promised power. Athena offered wisdom and military prowess. Aphrodite tempted him with the love of the most beautiful woman in the world, Helen of Sparta. Paris chose Aphrodite, and Helen, wife of King Menelaus of Sparta, became his reward. Paris abducted Helen, willingly or not, depending on the version, and her husband's outrage set the stage for the epic conflict. While the story of Helen's abduction is central to the myth, many historians believe the Trojan War, if it happened, was more likely rooted in economic or political tensions. Troy, located in modern-day Turkey, was a thriving city in the late Bronze Age, strategically positioned near the Dardanelles Strait. Controlling this passage meant dominating trade between the Aegean and Black Seas. The abduction of Helen may symbolize a broader struggle over trade routes, territorial disputes, or resources. Whether Helen was real or a symbolic figure, her story captures the ancient world's preoccupation with honor, loyalty, and the consequences of betrayal. The Trojan War's cast of characters is larger than life. Achilles, the nearly invincible Greek warrior, dominated the battlefield but was undone by his heel. Hector, Troy's noble prince, embodied courage and loyalty. Odysseus, the wily king of Ithaca, masterminded the Trojan Horse, while Agamemnon, commander of the Greek forces, was both a leader and a source of discord. Each hero played a pivotal role, their deeds immortalized in Homer's poetry and countless retellings. The Late Bronze Age, often referred to as the Mycenaean period in Greece, was marked by warrior kings ruling over city-states. These leaders commanded small armies and relied on alliances to assert power. Archaeological evidence suggests that Mycenaean warriors engaged in frequent conflicts, often fighting for prestige and resources. While figures like Achilles and Hector may be literary creations, they likely represent archetypes of the elite warriors of the time. The weapons, chariots, and armor described in Homer's epics align with archaeological finds, such as those from Mycenae and other Bronze Age sites. The Greeks laid siege to Troy for 10 years, according to legend, battling not only the Trojans but also enduring the meddling of gods. From the duel between Paris and Menelaus to the tragic death of Patroclus at the hands of Hector, the war is depicted as a prolonged and grueling campaign. Archaeological excavations at the site, believed to be ancient Troy, Hisarlik in modern Turkey, suggest that the city was indeed destroyed multiple times. One layer, Troy the Sephana, shows evidence of fire and destruction consistent with a violent conflict around 1200 BCE, aligning with the traditional timeline of the Trojan War. While the 10-year duration of the siege is likely an exaggeration, a prolonged conflict or a series of skirmishes could explain the destruction. Trade rivalries, or a coalition of Greek forces seeking to assert dominance over the region, might have sparked the conflict. In Homer's Iliad, the gods are active participants in the Trojan War. Athena sides with the Greeks, aiding heroes like Odysseus and Diomedes. Apollo supports the Trojans, often intervening to protect Hector. Zeus, the king of the gods, tries to maintain balance but ultimately succumbs to the whims of fate. The involvement of gods in the Trojan War reflects the deeply religious worldview of the ancient Greeks. To them, the gods were not distant deities but active forces in daily life, including divine intervention in stories served both to entertain and to convey moral lessons about hubris, loyalty, and destiny. While the gods' actions are mythical, they symbolize the real struggles faced by humans, conflicting loyalties, the unpredictability of war, and the limitations of mortal power. One of the most iconic elements of the Trojan War is the Trojan Horse, a giant wooden structure used by the Greeks to infiltrate Troy. Pretending to abandon the siege, the Greeks left the horse as an offering to Athena. The Trojans, believing the war was over, brought the horse into their city. At night, Greek soldiers emerged from the horse, opening the gates for their comrades and destroying Troy. The Trojan horse may not have been a literal wooden structure, but a metaphor for a clever military strategy. Some historians speculate that the horse could symbolize a siege engine or a ruse involving infiltrators. Others suggest that it represents the destructive power of earthquakes, as Poseidon, the god of earthquakes, was also associated with horses in Greek mythology. The destruction of Troy likely involved cunning tactics, but the details remain elusive, shrouded in the layers of myth. Homer's Odyssey chronicles Odysseus' decade-long journey home from Troy, filled with trials and tribulations. Other heroes met tragic ends. Agamemnon was murdered by his wife, Clytemnestra, while Menelaus and Helen faced their own struggles. The period following the Trojan War corresponds with the Late Bronze Age collapse, a time of widespread societal upheaval. Across the Mediterranean, cities were destroyed, trade networks disintegrated, and once mighty empires fell. The war may have been one of many conflicts contributing to this collapse. The stories of the Greek heroes' difficult returns reflect the instability of the era, as people struggled to rebuild amid widespread turmoil. The Trojan War's enduring legacy lies in its storytelling. Homer's epics were not written as historical accounts, but as works of art that captured the imagination of ancient audiences. Through their tales of love, honor, and tragedy, they explored timeless themes of human existence. Modern archaeology has added depth to the myth, uncovering layers of historical truth beneath the fiction. The ruins of Troy, the artifacts of Mycenaean warriors, and the traces of Bronze Age trade routes all hint at a complex reality that inspired the legend. The Trojan War remains a fascinating blend of myth and history. While we may never know the full truth, the story's power lies in its ability to connect us to the ancient past. It reminds us that history is not just about facts, but also about the stories we tell to make sense of our world. In unraveling the untold story of the Trojan War, we find a tapestry of human ambition, conflict, and creativity, a legacy that continues to inspire and intrigue thousands of years after the walls of Troy fell.